Good morning, everybody, and it's a chilly Sunday morning here on Soup and Meatballs. Good day for Soup and Meatballs, Tim. There's Tim over there. I think there he is.
Hey,
Max is here looking at you. Tim, how was your week?
good week. And I made some soup last week. Not
Oh,
this
which
week.
way?
I made some Irish beef stew, like Guinness beef stew.
I haven't made meatballs in a long time. I get them at Mario. So
Yeah, you said the Mario's meatballs are top notch.
so a long time ago when I was working in television, we'll take a little detour here. I remember going through town driving with my camera guy Jeff, and we would stop at these random gas stations for food because it was lunchtime, and we thought it would be neat to do like a tournament of hoagies around town, and this was back in 2000 2001, like around that time. Like we never did it. The technology wasn't around to like broadcast it to the world, and
Yeah.
that would have been neat. I've had this vision in my head that I should be holding a statewide meatball tournament. Like, just send me meatball, or bring your meatballs to a centralized location, and I will judge them, and we'll have a bracket.
See, now I'm trying to even think in Hazelton outside of third base. Like, that was such a go-to hoagie spot for me.
Every gas station had a hoagie. Like every Shell, Orlowski's, every Sunoco,
every pizzeria.
The place. Well, I think we were focused more on gas station hoagies because we would stop and get gas in the station car, and then we'd get food.
R.I.P. Orlowski's.
I'm drawing a blank as to where the best places were. I'll tag Jeff, and maybe he remembers. We do remember putting the empty wrappers underneath the seat in the car, so eventually the car started smelling like peppers and onions. But
it's certainly much easier than throwing your trash out.
It was, and speaking of setting up a meatball bracket, the NCAA men's basketball bracket just got released, and last Monday everybody did their thing. Tim, you and I got in a league, or got in a bracket, we got in a pool, so like we have something. It's not quite Soup and Meatballs, but it's something.
Yeah.
If you paid any attention to the first two rounds, the first round didn't have any really major upsets. There are a couple double-digit seeds that made it to round two, and one of those double-digit seeds blew up my entire bracket by knocking out the 2 seed that I had in the finals. So for the first 3 days of the tournament, Tim, what's the biggest story for you?
I think it's at least in our world. I think it's Arkansas, like you'd said, beating St. John's, and I think it's neither of us had Michigan doing much, and yet here we are with blue in the Sweet 16.
I'm a terrible person. I had them as one
too.
of the 5-12 losses.
Me too. I really liked, based on the second half of the conference championship game I saw, I really liked UC San Diego. But credit to Michigan. They're a bit of an anomaly for this tournament that they play with 2 bigs. They're not centered around the 3-point line. They play what would make them kind of a rarity for basketball in 2025.
Well, I mean, I wonder how our viewers do in their brackets, and we have a special guest right now that I'm going to see if she does a bracket, because she's got some experience in basketball. I'm just going to hit the button here. Now that there's 2 of them, so we'll see if we can get her on here. Hello, are you there? She logged in twice. While we're working through some of our technical. See, this is what happens when we try to do weird and wonky stuff. we'll figure it out. I'm looking currently at our Laboratory H Patreon group. That's the one I got us in. I'm currently in 5th place. I'm tied for 5th. Tim, you're tied for 7th. You
I'll
were
take
tied.
it.
You were in 1st for a while, but
I had a good first day.
Saturday hurt us, and yeah, I have 330 points. Tim, you have 320.
Yeah, and that's kind of people stress a little too much over these first 2 rounds. Like you pick up valuable points, but really you just want to come out of the first weekend with your final 4 intact.
Final 4 intact, and
Yeah,
like I said, I lost a finalist.
yeah.
So that's
I still knock on wood. I still have my final 4 intact, and I have
who was your final?
I have Duke, Auburn, Florida, and Tennessee.
You have Florida winning it all.
And I Florida over Duke for the title.
Oh, you did in fact have. Oh no, you picked Yale over Michigan. I thought I saw that.
Yeah, I for whatever reason I was high. I was high on that historic powerhouse, the Ivy League.
The smart money, right?
Something like that.
So there's that. My biggest, the biggest bust I think for me. If I look at my bracket, how embarrassed do I want to be? I mean, I don't think I just picked a lot of bad like the upsets I picked were just the biggest loss for me is St. John's, but I think a lot of people probably had St. John's at least in the regional final, if not the Final Four.
Yeah, so, I think I had St. John's going to the regional final.
Missouri was a disappointment for me. I think I had them in. I had them playing on the second weekend at least, and my problem was I'm betting on. Try this one. I'm betting on conferences, and if you look at the SEC had 14 bids, they have 7 teams still alive. That's a 50% clip. Oh, here we go. I think the camera's working now.
I saw for a second.
We'll get you on. Don't worry. 7 teams are left in the Big Ten. The Big Ten had 2 teams drop last night. Wisconsin was upset. That was a bummer. And
but a 3-6, a mild upset.
UCLA. It's strange calling them a Big Ten team, but UCLA dropped as well. So they have 6 of their 8 teams left. The Big 12 went 9-1. They have 86% of their teams still in. So
and the big thing that I've seen is just people crying about the death of the mid-major. Everyone's so quick to say that NIL money has created a haves and have-nots situation.
I was actually going to ask you that because I had seen a video that it really made sense to me that the example he used was the '96 Drexel team that had Malik Rose averaging over 20 points a game as a senior. Eventually gets drafted by Charlotte, has a great professional career. But in '96, that Drexel team lines up against Memphis as in a 12-5 game, and Memphis has 3 future NBA players, and Drexel pulls off the upset. And even though they lost to the Orange in the round of 32, that's an NCAA tournament win. I don't think Drexel is that a mid-major? That's almost like a low major to me.
Yeah, I mean, Drexel, it's hard to call them a mid-major when they play in the Big Five in Philly. They're Temple and St. Joe's and Nova adjacent. So it's hard to call them a true mid-major.
They don't feel like St. Joe's adjacent, though, but I get what you're saying.
Right. Well, because they're in the A10, But yeah, like when I think of like mid-majors, I think of like, The Patriot League's a perfect example. Your Bucknells and your Lehighs and your Lafayettes.
But if you have a player like a Malik Rose at a program like that, I don't know if they stay till their senior year before they get scooped up by, a Michigan or an Indiana or a Carolina, or even a bigger, not a big name school like one of those, but a bigger Division I school like, I don't know, like Colorado.
I don't know, but like the tournament exists for like boy, now I can't even remember his name. The big guy from NC State last year, who like the nation fell in love with him. But he went undrafted. He's playing in I think he's playing in China maybe. He's playing overseas.
DJ Burns.
Yeah.
He was like a tackle, 6'9", 275, according to
so I feel like the tournament's always going to produce guys like that, who, whether now NC State, you can't call them a mid-major coming out of the ACC, but like, you know what I mean? They were an 11 seed last year, a 10 seed, they were a double-digit seed last year, and they have this kid who no one heard of, and I think the tournament's always going to give us that.
Have we gotten it yet, though?
Have we gotten it yet?
Yeah. Is there a team / player that you think that everybody's going to rally behind? Because with Burns, it was because he was just a big guy, and
yeah, and I think it was just like he had a goofy personality. He was just like a fun college kid.
I'm looking through the bracket now. Aside from we saw this coming in, we knew you were going to get, or you had the potential to get, a Patino Calipari matchup in the second round, which is cool. Aside from that story, I think people are just wondering, how far can Duke carry the ACC, and how many SEC teams wind up in the Final Four?
Yeah, and I think, in terms of the Cinderellas, now that McNeese is gone, because they had the potential to be a fun story. Arkansas is probably, carrying the banner for the little guys. And it's even hard to call them the little guys, an SEC team who, in our lifetime has won a national title.
Yeah, with one of the best shooters, I think. One of my favorite non-Wolverine Orangeman players, Scotty Burrell. His range started when he was in the gym.
Scotty Thurman.
Yeah, Scotty Burrell was on the UConn team.
Yeah,
Scotty Thurman could he could shoot the lights out. He was like Steph Curry before Steph Curry. I'm doing a quick look through. I mean, Colorado State is at 12. They're still alive, but they play Maryland today. And then you have New Mexico against Michigan State. Those are the only double-digit seeds that are there.
Normally, the Sweet 16 is good for probably like 3 or even 4 double-digit seeds.
Yeah, and I don't see that this year, and I don't know. That's what's getting me. Like every year, it seems like you have a 14 that pulls off a major win in the first round, and they're competitive in the second round. You get that this year.
Yeah, but I think that's just an extension of, people talk about March Madness and how unpredictable it is. Sometimes when you have a reputation for being unpredictable, the most unpredictable thing you can do is to be entirely predictable. I mean, look, people are crying about it because they filled out a bracket where I had High Point beating Purdue. So of course I'm going to complain that High Point didn't pull off an upset. That is its own kind of chaos.
I guess. I wonder if, how do I put this? If we have a Final Four, there's our guest. If we have a Final Four with, 4 number ones again, because it happened once.
Yeah.
Does that become the story then?
It's inevitably going to be the story because everyone's so quick to jump on the NIL story thread and how it's ruining sports. But, to say after 1 year or 2 years, it's such a small sample size that it's just, a big knee-jerk reaction.
All right. And so now coming in, first guest in Soup and Meatballs
weeks.
history. Our
Your
friend
dad was
Jill.
on. Yeah.
What's that?
Your dad was on. Your dad was the first guest. Like,
That's that.
how
Bob
could you
doesn't
forget?
count.
What about Bob?
Bob doesn't count. He's an extension of the show. So, Jill, I don't know if you remember Jill from high school. One of the best point guards that I remember in Hazleton Junior High history. Jill, can you hear us? Or you're with us?
Yes. Can you
Cool,
hear
look
me?
at that. And,
Yeah.
and she's got a microphone now.
Yeah. Oh, I apparently I can't use the ultra wide camera.
Oh well.
I don't know. There was plenty of operator errors that made me 17 minutes late, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, like I figured it out.
Well, it took us 28 shows to have someone ask to come on, so here we are. Jill, I thought it would be kind of cool to talk basketball with you because you have a basketball history, and you had said you talk sports at work to people who don't think you know sports, right?
I was actually planning on wearing a hockey shirt, just to pick a non-ball sports ball. I am actually wearing basketball though. Minnesota Lynx.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
So, do you have a bracket? Do you do that kind of thing?
So yeah, when they did it in the office, I would just randomly pick like whatever name I liked better. I like going to sports. I don't care, and I'm interested in a lot of other things, so I can't keep up with like I don't know how many teams they start out with. Like
68.
68 now.
Yeah. I can't
I
track that many things of something that I don't know.
Tim
It's
and I,
it's not one of my passions. So I
Tim
just
and I the
do
last
it on
couple
the
weeks
side.
talked about how we used to be big into college basketball in the 90s, and I'm kind of the same as you. I like Syracuse, and they are awful. I'll root for Michigan if they do well, but
I think we were really big with college. Like my Cabbage Patch doll had a Penn State cheerleading uniform. Like
Mine too.
right?
I had a
Like,
My
I gotta
Buddy.
get back up there. I'm running low on Penn State gear.
I mean,
and I don't know how you guys. I didn't watch I don't think a second of college basketball until the conference tournaments. Like I watch I watch the NBA every night, but then as soon as the selection show, I'm like a sudden expert where I'm like, oh, St. John's doesn't have the perimeter shooting to make it to the Sweet 16. What are you talking? I've watched like 10 seconds of basketball all year, like 10 seconds of college basketball. So I'm like the
4
rest of the
seconds
country.
more than I watched.
Yeah.
It depends if I wanted someone else to make my dinner and there's TVs where I go. Because generally then there's some sports on. But then, sometimes you get to watch some interesting things. Like, I remember I stayed for an extra beer once because they were actually, like, broadcasting the Little League World Series, and I was just fascinated by, like, the stats of a 10-year-old.
You know what? What's rare is a
feel
10-year-old
like-
playing in that tournament. They get 13-year-olds, but that's right down the road from Tim. Every year I say I want to get up to that, and every
It's
year
a
like
zoo.
school gets in the way.
It's a zoo.
Where
Route
in the
50
world are you, Tim?
I'm in Bloomsburg,
Okay.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Okay.
Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, USA, Earth.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking there was some when I lived out in Omaha. There was a stadium there.
Oh, the College World
Like-
Series.
The College
Yes.
World Series, yeah.
Yeah, so that was okay. It was not professional.
And
sports ball.
are you in Minnesota now? With the link?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, right
Yeah,
on
for 10
Tobacco
years
Road.
now I'm back down south.
Okay.
I wonder what the vibe was down there when the North Carolina Tar Heels got into the tournament, because a lot of people were like, they don't belong. Is there any local
Basketball.
flavor you can throw in?
Yeah, basketball is really big here. Like that's what I mean about like the corporate culture. Like during March Madness, like depending what teams win or lose, especially Duke, UNC, and NC State, like people like bleed those colors, and yeah, they get really moody. Oh my gosh.
No, not sports fans.
Yeah, sports fans are known for being entirely
They're just
reasonable.
so emotional. Like, God, just get some work done. Quit getting your panties all in a bunch.
Where was she during football season, Tim?
Apparently in North
Oh,
Carolina.
I followed Taylor Swift.
Because during college football season, that's when
Oh,
Narcandy's getting a bunch.
Do you mean you physically followed her, like Deadheads followed the Dead in the 90s?
No, I'm not cool enough to be a Swiftie.
Oh, okay.
No, I just
You're
admire from
just a
afar
casual
and
Swiftie.
yeah, sending positive vibes
Gotcha.
and such to no. Well, and I mean, I guess I do like football because that's fun to watch.
I'll tell you, we'll get you there because we
Yeah.
have to talk football, otherwise we get fined. But
Oh, yeah, probably. They're very strict with that.
I do want to mention to Tim that my IUP season is now over. They made the Elite Eight in Division II, but Gannon knocked them out 72-59. So both Bloomsburg and IUP are both done. And now, Tim, you can focus all your energy on the NBA. Like you said, you like the NBA, and I like something worth $6.1 billion. Did you see your Celtics got sold?
Yeah, I did. The highest sales price for any pro sports franchise. I think Washington had been just a shade over $6 billion before this, but I don't think it'll change much.
So the guy that bought it is named Bill Chisholm, and he's part. It's always part of a group. Nobody has $6 billion by themselves to just buy a team.
I'm sure he's like a hedge fund guy or like a tech bro.
Symphony Technology Group. Whatever they do.
Right. I'm sure they're adding a lot of value to the world.
He says that he bleeds green and is committed to raising banners. I don't know how one does that, but whenever a new owner comes in and says they're committed to raising banners, I get a little apprehensive. Tim, as a fan, how are you feeling about it?
I'm always wary when there's a new owner, but it worked out. The last big one I can remember of an ownership change that felt like a big deal was when Jeffrey Lurie bought the Eagles in the 90s. And I was like, oh, boy, what's this guy going to do? It worked out pretty well. So, me, the eternal optimist. I'll keep a positive thought.
I think they have a strong enough young core that at least for the next couple of years, I don't think he can break anything. So
and not just that, but just like the front office, I think is so well established with what they've done, both through the draft and with signing. Just the roster they've put together. You would have to actively work to screw this up.
Well, I mean, goals, right? Jill, do you have an NBA team that you follow or care about?
I don't. I don't know if I did since Michael Jordan.
You were Jordan, just like kid of the 90s, just like us.
Yeah.
Was
there any other team in
back then? No. There were a couple, but if you would have said you were a 76er fan, the way their drafting worked, they could have had the current Celtics roster, which is kind of it's a bummer for Sixer fans. Bulls fans, I mean, the Bulls are in the playoff hunt. There's the current standings active of right now in the East. The top four teams each have 12 games remaining. It looks like Cleveland and Boston are probably set at 1 and 2. New York, I wouldn't be surprised if they fell to 4, but they're still hanging into 3. It's out west. That's kind of exciting. If you look at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, there's 3 games that separate 3 through 6, and then Houston has a 2-game lead over that. It's stretch time in the NBA, Tim. Where do you see people falling out west? Which Denver or LA? Who has a better shot of getting the 2 seed if Houston falls?
I'm pretty bullish on Denver just because I really like Jokic.
They have a big one tonight they're at Houston, so that's the big game tonight.
And I think everyone wants to kind of like anoint the Lakers as the team that can challenge Oklahoma City just because they're the kind of like they've got the sexy roster with LeBron and Luka. But I just think Denver's better.
Well, I mean, Jill's Bulls came out and hit 81 second half points. They beat the Lakers 145 to 115 yesterday. One of the things you had mentioned a lot, LA not going to play defense. And
Yeah,
you give 145 to the Bulls, that's not playing defense.
And that I saw that Josh Giddey kid almost had a quadruple double for the Bulls. Almost.
That was LeBron's first game back from injury, so I don't know if he's getting back into the swing of things.
It's just it's hard to watch ESPN because they want the Lakers to be good so badly. Like they keep talking about Bronny like he's a legitimate player. They keep talking about the Lakers like they're going to contend. I mean, and the Lakers might contend in the West, but ESPN makes it seem like
they will.
I mean, they'll be a top 3 or 4 seed.
The Bronny thing, he went out and scored 17, and Stephen A. Smith was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the brother can ball.
Yeah, they were ready to chisel his bust and put him in Springfield. 17 one time. The kid averages like 3.5 points a night. He's a D League guy at best.
I listened to Colin Cowherd on the radio a lot, and the one thing he would say, and this is Media 101, if you want to get people listening, there's 2 ways to do it. You can talk NFL or you can talk LeBron James. No, he's like, nobody cares about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Nobody cares. Detroit, Cade Cunningham, this great. No, nobody cares.
Yeah, the Thunder are running away with the Thunder are up like 15 games in the West. No one cares. If you were to go to the average NBA fan and say name 3 people on the Thunder roster who aren't Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, now you're asking. I can't give you 3 with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, and I think it's a problem for the NBA that a lot of casual fans might not even know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's probably going to be the MVP of the league.
Bill, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Do you know who Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is?
No, I knew who LeBron James was.
I mean,
I was just reading the bottom of the screen here. That was cool.
SGA is like Tim said, he's probably going to be the MVP. He's averaging 30 points a game, but your average fan doesn't know who he is.
This basketball. I mean, isn't that something? I was thinking on the owners and does the owner even matter? Like, what do they actually do for the team? It is a lot of like just how you flash the star and like you can like take them down or build them up. Like, I'm glad to hear LeBron's still around. How old is he?
He's 40. He turned 40 back in December.
Yikes.
Well, I mean, 40's not that old.
He joined our club.
What? I just stopped claiming 29.
I'm curious. Did you follow? Because the Hazleton girls made a run. Did you follow that at all? They had a run in the state playoffs. Cool. I didn't really either.
How'd they do?
We'll get there because that's later in the show.
It's there.
I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, he does this. I don't send him the full rundown just because sometimes I want to hear his thoughts on stuff off the top of his head, and he's good at that. He's good at that. We're bad at segueing here on Super
okay.
You're the king of the
here
segue.
I'm making you go back to the whole owner thing
No, that's fine. Because one of the things that we talked about on an earlier show was the owner of Dallas, and the owner of Dallas wanted to build a casino in Dallas, and the city council or some municipal government said no, and so she traded away the best player on the team. So he's like, what can owners do?
Just spite your, what is it? Cut off your nose to spite your face, kind of?
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, that's one of the conspiracy theories, at least. But there's no other reason to trade a 25-year-old all-star for what they got in return.
Pennies on the dollar, yeah.
Well, there's always other things. Like, was the new one prettier or had more social media following or...
I think
less more knees that worked. I don't know.
It's funny. I think his knee got hurt.
I think with owners, like you have some who like were like lifelong fans who made their billions, and they were like, this is like my pet project. So they're super hands-on. There are some who buy a team and they're like, this is purely an investment for me. Like, I just want to maximize profit and then sell high. So it's hard to say really what the role of every owner is. It's just kind of like, it depends when you put down a couple $1 billion, how involved you want to be.
Yeah. Well, I think I was wondering too. That's why I don't know how to mute myself while I'm crunching on the full screen.
Crunch. Like,
Okay. I mean, I thought of that afterwards. I have some soft snacks, but
the whole podcast is called Soup and Meatballs, so food is welcome.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So I'll
snack
just
away.
crunch away in the background. That'll be my.
I ate
conversation.
meatballs the one time. I
Constantly
don't have any
snacking.
with me, otherwise I would.
I have
Anyway.
wasabi almonds around here somewhere.
Oh, I got chocolate ones. So I learned this thing, like, how like all the great stores of our day are like just disappearing. Like I still get a little sad every time I think about Kmart. And like Big Lots just went out of business,
How
and
often do you
like
think about
especially with
Kmart?
these, yeah, I mean Kmart, I think there's one left in Puerto Rico, maybe. I don't know. Future
There's
tense
one
of maybe.
Blockbuster, I think, in Oregon.
I think, yeah, and I think
I
that'll
think
be
it's
there
in
forever.
Alaska.
That's on my road trip too. But what I
Totally is,
learned
yeah.
is that these like hedge funds, these groups, they invest in they buy these companies, but they don't even have the money that they bought with it. They just roll it in as a loss of the
Yeah.
company that they bought. So like they completely devalue what they bought, like the second that they buy it. And then since all of the economy or whatever is built on growth, they just hold on to it for a little while, like hoping that it just naturally grows, and then they bankrupt or sell it off for a little more than what they bought. Like it just rolls into itself. Like they never actually,
Or they
money
break it
doesn't.
up like Richard Gere did in Pretty Woman. The shipping company, remember?
Oh,
You're
I don't
much more
remember
well
that part.
versed. I don't know if
No.
I wasn't ready for this deep dive into Pretty Woman canon.
All right, so I
That
remember
wasn't in
writing
the
this.
homework assignment that I didn't do anyway.
Yeah, I watched
Remember
Runaway Bride like an idiot.
No. So I wrote this down on Facebook once because I remember thinking this was like my deep thought about that movie. Now that we're going to go down that rabbit hole. So Richard Gere is this billionaire dude who tries to buy Julia Roberts. Okay, whatever. And he says like, how
Just
much
for
for
a
the
date,
week?
it was very respectable.
How much
He
for the
wasn't trying to
week?
take advantage of her.
And she's like, you can't
She
afford
doesn't
it.
kiss on the job, by the way.
No, she doesn't.
Right for you.
But she quotes. She first says to him, she's like, you can't afford this. Or it was overnight. He's like, you can't afford it. And he's like, try me. And she says, $300. And I thought to myself, dude, that's $3 bills. I could afford that. And I'm not Richard Gere's
Okay,
shipping magnate. Like-
find out. Can we pull up like an inflation calendar to see what
Yeah.
$300 in 1990 is in 2025 dollars? Because it's like what, like $1,100 in today money?
When was Pretty Woman made?
1990.
I actually have, you know what? It was actually saved on the thing because somebody asked me this. $729.
That's a bargain now.
I mean, I
don't think inflation hit prostitution the same way it hit everything else.
if I had $700
Girls
to,
should be charging more.
do, but
Ladies should be
it's not
charging
like
more.
We need the Federal Reserve to take a tighter control of the prostitution industry.
No. I think that's one thing that we've been smart not to let them touch.
well, I mean, not to go down that rabbit hole too far. Talking
Sorry.
about owners, and I'm going to pull you back into sports, Tim. One of the owners that did make a massive deal in Major League Baseball, Steve Cohen, signing a big check to bring Juan Soto. And I read a thing that Soto was like the Yankees were still number one. I think it boiled down to they didn't give him that suite or something. I wish you would just say that it was about the money because that's what it was about. Another owner who's just crushing things out in Los Angeles opened up their season already. I don't know if you know this, but opening day is Thursday, unless you're a Dodger or a Cub because you just opened up last week. 2 games in Tokyo, Japan. The Dodgers starting out their title defense by winning both of those games. But it was at 3:00 in the morning if you're in Los Angeles. So, like, Tim, if you're a Dodger fan living in California, how do you feel about your team opening up in Tokyo?
I hate it. And just as a general sports fan, to have one of the four major sports bungle their opening day like this. Like, can you imagine if, like, football, instead of having, like, their big Thursday night showcase, they said, all right, we're going to have one game August 1st in Germany,
Go back to preseason.
and we'll show it on tape delay. And then the rest of the teams will play like 4 weeks later. Like, it sounds ridiculous.
In baseball's semi-defense, it wasn't on tape delay. It was the game 1 was live. I couldn't find game 2 before I was going to work.
Right. Well, I mean, it was on tape delay for anyone who didn't want to be up at 3 a.m.
Yeah. We had to DVR it. Does the NFL open on a Wednesday? Like, will the Philadelphia Eagles play a Wednesday game, or will they play the Thursday? Was it Thursday of week 1?
This past year, it was Thursday in Brazil.
No. I mean, the Super Bowl champs.
Oh, yeah. They'll open the season. But, yeah, the opening for football is always Thursday night anymore.
Okay. I didn't know if maybe it's like the concert or something that they do is on Wednesday. I love the fact that the Super Bowl champ kind of gets the spotlight of the first game. And I had said a couple years ago, when the Giants were winning, I think in the early 2000s, I said that they should do something like, whoever wins the World Series gets, opening day kind of all to themselves, but it's opening night. Because opening day, you get like 1 o'clock games, you get 3 o'clock games. It's a whole day thing. I really think that, if you're an organization like Major League Baseball that has the problems getting fans that it does, sending the biggest market team you have, like the Yankees are big, but the Dodgers are bigger right now. And I know they have, half of Japan's all-stars on their team, and it was great for the fans in Tokyo to see them. But I don't know. I don't know how you do that. Maybe an exhibition game. That I have no problem with them playing games in Japan, but it felt weird having it count.
It just seems like no one cares. Do you hear people really talking about, baseball started? And some of it's drowned out by, NFL draft news. But what does that say for baseball that, who will get picked in the NFL draft is bigger news than the Major League Baseball season starting?
I think that's partially, we talked about ESPN before, that's partially on them. They don't pay attention to baseball. They don't pay attention to baseball until maybe the playoffs, maybe the World Series.
Yeah,
and it's the Colin Cowherd mentality. What gets eyeballs? LeBron James in the NFL. They would rather show highlights of Will Johnson running 40 yards or Graham Mason or whoever running in a straight line, and because that just encapsulates the football culture of this country. And I'm still old school. I like baseball. I watched the opening day game as much as I could until I went to work. Just it was neat to see actual baseball. And
and it also seems like baseball has an access problem where, like, football is so accessible. You have the NBA on TNT or NBA on ESPN. Unless you buy like some special package to watch your team, like there's Sunday Night Baseball until, that contract runs out.
MLB Network does a good job, I think, of, they put 4 or 5 games on at a time if you watch. But, I mean, that's somebody who's really into the sport. I mean, here we have average sports fan. Jill, how much baseball do you watch in a year? She's shaking her head.
Yeah, if I go to the game. I was just thinking that. Like you're saying, like, football is accessible and, TV watching is a very leisurely activity, but I think there's something about baseball being in person. Like you're eating the food there, it's the crowd because it's a slow game.
It is, and I would also
slow game to play.
It is, and I think baseball's the best to watch live.
I agree.
Football is not great live. The sight lines are terrible, like in the huge stadiums. Like when people talk about, like, oh, can you imagine having tickets to the Super Bowl? That's my personal hell, having to deal with traffic and 60,000 people just for a game that I can barely see. I'm watching it on the Jumbotron anyway. I'd rather watch it at home.
They have the yellow line on the Jumbotron.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've gotten accustomed to the technology of watching a football game on TV, but I'm with Jill, like going to a baseball. The technology at a baseball game does nothing but frustrate me. The box, that that does nothing but frustrate me. I would rather go and be a part of. And you've been to games, Tim, where like the experience is basically the people around you.
Yeah.
You know, like the one game I can think of that I went to with my dad, we ran into a guy who was a service member who was on leave, and he was walking around with the Ric Flair big gold belt on. Who does this? Now, this guy was buff. He was jacked. So we obviously asked him, like, dude, what's up with the belt? He won it from a farmer in Saudi Arabia. And then now he wears it wherever he goes. And if anybody wants to challenge him, he will wrestle them. I didn't challenge him because he would have killed me. But that's you don't get that at home.
I would have wrestled him for the story.
I know.
No,
it's not about victory.
No, I make sure I get his number. Go train.
Yeah, like I think.
No,
I think
if you do that at a football game, you're getting arrested because there's going to be a fight. It's going to get physical. The tension and the vibe in the stands, especially today. Back in the 90s, you and I went to an Eagles game together, Tim. It was fine. I've been to Philadelphia Phillies games with a guy named Johnny who was wearing an Emmitt Smith Cowboys jersey. He got out of there alive. In football today, though, it's so different.
Yeah, well, the problem with football is I think you have a lot of casual fans who their whole identity is wrapped up in their team. They're not even fans of the game so much. It's almost like being in a gang, you know, where if they see someone in rival colors, it becomes that someone has cast a slur at their pride. You know,
of rival gangs, Tim. Jill, where did you go to school? 7th grade.
I was Harmon.
Harmon kid.
Greeby
with two Greeby kids.
Life.
The Greeby kids were.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago about the Greeby Harmon rivalry that was almost
separated by 500 feet of Diamond Avenue.
I didn't even know where Greeby was.
See?
I think Harmon is like apartments or something. They must have done the asbestos removal.
Well, Tim did have to Greeby, so it's okay.
That was something interesting about. I'm sorry, I wanted to share because y'all stayed in Pennsylvania your whole life.
I'm in southern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so
I grew up in Jersey.
Okay.
Before coming to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there might be. You might have even had that vibe, like like we have like our rival states, our rival teams. Like even in Pennsylvania, we kind of had 2 of every team. There was East and West.
Which is funny because I don't like any of them.
Every school, yeah. I moved out to Omaha in the Midwest, and totally regional, different vibes. No accent out there, very easy to understand. But like folks that was the first dive into like that like very hardcore local team like live or die culture. Yeah. So like I moved out there, and this was like pre-Sandusky stuff came out, but I moved out there and folks are like, oh, so you're a Cornhuskers fan now. I'm like, I never even heard of the Cornhuskers before I moved here. Who's that?
Right.
I mean, I think it had been like 14 years since Penn State had played them. As far as I was concerned, they didn't exist. And I remember telling them like, hey, you pay off my student loans, I'll be a fan of whatever you want.
It's funny
still paying the student loans, but the offer still stands. I will be a fan of whatever team you want me to be a fan of. To whoever pays.
Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
It's funny that
I could be a good hardcore fan.
I think of Hazleton in different terms maybe than the two of you, because I think of Hazleton as being very sort of provincial and wary of outsiders. Because I remember moving there in 4th grade, and I still had the Jersey accent. And so I was at the bus stop, and either me or my brother said the word water, but we said it like water. And I remember one of the kids at the bus stop saying, "You guys talk funny." And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm eating cold pizza now.
You guys.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
And pits.
Nothing
I
wrong
piece of pits.
Ain't it?
And
So I mean, Tim is from Jersey, and so Jill, just so you're aware, Tim is the resident Red Sox fan. I'm the resident Yankee fan here on Soup and Meatballs. So we try to talk a little bit about what's going on with those guys. And I looked at the Pecota, I don't know how to say it. And for some reason, Pecota still hates Boston. They have you winning 80 games. New York, they have winning 85, and neither one of them are going to make the playoffs. The Yankees just got hit by another injury. Clark Schmidt's on the injured list. And now Carlos Carrasco. Remember Carlos Carrasco? Yeah, he's going to be on the team, and he's in the rotation right now. Had a great spring. ERA of 169 over, I think, 16 innings. But when Carlos Carrasco is your fifth starter, I guess, I think it's going to be a long year in the Bronx.
I mean, I think 80 to I think a 500 season's about right for Boston. I think I think they just have too many questions, especially in their bullpen.
I think that I like them to win 88, 89, 90, contend for the playoffs. But
I like their lineup. I mean, I like now that they know that Bregman's going to be at third, so Devers will be at DH, and then they just kind of have to figure out second base.
That's where I like that. So in 20 years, my guess. So write this down. In about 20 years, if we're still around, I think there's going to be a movie made about J.C. Escarra. Who? J.C. Escarra made the Yankees as a backup catcher. He was originally drafted by the Orioles in 2017, washed out of their system. He played all over independent ball from Gastonia to Tijuana, where he was also an Uber driver and a substitute teacher. So the Yankees' backup catcher is a former substitute teacher from Tijuana who hit 333 this year in spring training. I think he's going to be our version of Jimmy Morris from the movie The Rookie, if you've seen that, except Jimmy Morris was 35, Escarra's 30. So, I mean, there's still hope for me at 46, maybe. What do you think?
What's your 40 time?
It's measured in calendars, not stopwatches.
Yeah, I mean, hit the gym, see how the arm is.
It's there. I mean, it exists. Jill, did you play softball too back in the day?
Yeah, she was tough.
I thought you did.
I thought it was funny you brought up basketball of all sports, because I was a big basketball star until everybody hit their second growth spurt, and I did not. I was very strong on defense because I was closer to where they were dribbling the ball. I could jump higher than everyone else. I just started out a lot lower. Softball was my thing. I played just about every position. I will say, like, as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go play slow pitch softball. And they put me in the infield, and I'm like, yeah, I'll chase stuff. I can't.
Face mask and I see some. So a lot of my sports now comes from TikTok. There's a guy who tests bats. And he hits bombs with these things, and he's not getting slow pitch softball. He's getting like medium pitch, and he hits the heck out of things. I can't imagine playing third base in a slow pitch softball league.
I can't believe. So I did it. So I was a Valley girl. So all you city folks that I didn't see, meet until 7th grade. That was, going up in the big city. But like we built the league. We started out like little league girl softball and like built up. So like we grew into, stealing bases, fast pitch, like getting the windmill, and, I was a lefty, which is always very beneficial in baseball.
I was a lefty. I got hit by pitches all the time.
There was a few times. I think I had some reflexes. I mean, I caught something off the table the other day, and I'm like, yeah, she's still got it. Don't have to get the broom.
I'm not sure I ever had it, so.
But yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I think I guess if I had to pick a sport that I got more into, I think it probably would be baseball, because it is fun to go and be in person, and it's okay to chat and socialize, because there's all the breaks in between. It's kind of nice.
Was there a little league softball like when we were kids in the Hazleton area? Because I know in baseball, my double play partner was Jill Moomey, She was the second baseman. I was the shortstop. So I didn't know if there was a softball
My
league.
sister played. I don't know what it was. There was a softball league that she played in, but they wore blue jeans as their uniform. Like
Well, they used to
I
wear
was
skirts
jealous that she
in
didn't
the
have to wear
70s and
skirts.
80s.
I get jealous of these kids these days with their like custom fit uniforms for their, I had
For
a
the
t-shirt that went
Rockies,
down to
they're
my
the Ivan
knees.
Dragos.
I had the worst shoulder pads for football. I had like, you remember those blue lasers, Jameli? Like I would have been safer just like stuffing old magazines in my shirt.
I had lasers in 8th grade. So yeah, usually the lower level, the lower product you got. How did you get stuck with those? Like
I like my first year, Al Damde just gave me some blue lasers, and then I just stuck with what was familiar.
okay. Now our sophomore year, when I knew I was playing middle linebacker, I had the big. I looked a lot bigger than I was. This is funny, and this is a true story. So I'm teaching. I have a group of kids, and I have a picture of me wearing 21, and I posted up on my board because it's cool. One of my kids asks me, he's like, "Dude, why do you have a picture of Deion Sanders on your wall?" I'm like, "What do you?"
Deion's
like,
black.
I guess good on this kid not seeing color, but he thought I was Deion Sanders. Are you serious? No, and I stood him up. I walked him over. I said, "Look, that's me." He's like, "Man, you look like Deion." It might be the nicest thing a kid's ever said to me.
You look more like
I
Bosworth because you've got the cowboy collar.
I also ordered a CAT scan for the kid.
Well, is it just the number?
It was the number and the
Deion
color.
Sanders, yeah. So he might have not even known if it was a picture. Like, oh, he's black, or is he black? Not white.
But I mean, that's my claim to fame. A kid thought I was Deion.
Nice.
So,
Nice, but
Tim,
I think that's. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking
go ahead.
like from our generation. I don't know, like maybe there was less going on, like what you could access in sports. So like we used to know, like you just knew the local team because that's all you saw in the newspaper. Or,
I think cell phones and social media have changed a lot of that.
Yeah.
But Tim, you know what's going on up in Boston besides your lack of bullpen?
Yeah, really.
Are you ready for opening day? Who do you have on Thursday? We open with Milwaukee. T-minus 100 hours or so.
I haven't even looked at the schedule. I was reading a little bit this week about the kid they've got at second base, that Christian Campbell kid who hasn't been hitting, but they seem pretty high on him. So I'm just kind of interested who wins that spot. But yeah, I haven't even looked at the schedule yet. I've been so much more in like college basketball and NBA mode.
On the road in Texas, you got Nathan Eovaldi against Garrett Crochet. That'll be a good game. 4:00. You sneak out of work early, and that didn't happen. We've come to the point of the show though where we have to talk about football or we get fined. So really quick, Aaron Rodgers, we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. Where is he going to end up? He's not going to end up in Minnesota. The Vikings said we're going to roll with JJ, and Aaron Rodgers visited Pittsburgh, of all places. So my family are big Pittsburgh fans, and they haven't asked me, if it would be good for Aaron Rodgers to sign with them. My first inclination is no, it would not be good. Tim, what do you think? Good or bad for Pittsburgh?
I think it's ultimately a bad move because he's a 41-year-old on a surgically repaired Achilles who has a history of tearing locker rooms apart. I wouldn't want him in my locker room.
Maybe Russell Wilson is still out there, I think. You take a 1-year flyer on him.
I don't know. Now I'm hearing Russell Wilson, God knows why, but might want to go to the Giants.
We're going to talk about that in a second, but I don't think he's going to the Giants, and for the reason we'll talk about here in a little bit. I like the fact that Minnesota's sticking with JJ, though.
Me too.
And the one thing, I don't know, Jill, if you've paid attention to Penn State football last year, but they had a really good quarterback named Drew Aller. JJ McCarthy, by the numbers, I think is the best quarterback Michigan has ever had. He lost one game, won a national title. It's just tremendous career there. So you have to excuse the Michigan fandom. With rookie quarterbacks, though, I don't know what Minnesota can expect from him.
Well, here's the thing. You draft him in the top 10. He gets hurt. He sits for a year learning under Sam Darnold. Why did you draft him 10 unless you were going to play him? Like, why do you bring in Aaron Rodgers to steal another potential year out of J.J. McCarthy's career? He had his year to learn. He's a young quarterback. At a certain point, you put him on the field and sink or swim.
So I'm not following what happened. So JJ came in from what college?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay, so that's why. Okay.
Last year. So in 2024, he got drafted in the top 10 out of Michigan.
Yeah.
And then he tore his ACL in the preseason and missed the entire season.
Okay, so that's
so
why
now he's going into year 2, but with no pro experience.
Okay.
And people are saying, do you want to sign Aaron Rodgers as your short-term quarterback and keep JJ on the bench? Or do you finally give JJ McCarthy the chance to be the starter after his year recovering from the ACL injury?
Okay, so that's what the Vikings are doing then, is they're throwing JJ in, sink or swim.
Yes.
They're going to stick with JJ, and I think that's a good move.
I take it.
Yeah, I mean, because what's Aaron Rodgers going to give you? 2 years at most?
Yeah, I've heard that name. He's been around a little bit.
Yeah, he's
a polarizing figure in locker rooms. Like when he showed up in New York,
he's an anti-vax lunatic. Like not even like an anti-vaxxer, but like loud, passionate anti-vaxxer.
Okay, so he's dealing with some feelings he doesn't know how to get out.
That's the nicest way you could have said that.
Yeah. Oh, bless his heart.
But
so
from a football perspective,
that the Southern way of telling someone to go to hell?
Oh, bless his heart.
That's one of my favorite. I also like saying "bless my heart,"
which is if I have to talk to you for another second.
Oh, that's an interesting interpretation of it. I haven't fully. Just once in a while it pops out. It seems right.
Like that's how I'd imagine if I were a Southerner trapped in like a conversation with someone. I'd be like, "Oh, bless my heart."
No, but at the image and keeping on topic with sports talk, I like that they're going with JJ then. Like, why pay for someone to ride the bench? Why bring like I feel like this is cool. I could totally talk that stuff as long as you catch me up on all the gossip stuff I didn't know. Okay.
It really kind of is like I remember my mom used to watch the soap opera Passions. And like I'd sit at the table and I'd be like, all right, now who's this kid? He's an evil doll? What's the situation? But like in 5 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I'm down with this. All right. So sports is kind of like what Passions was to the soap opera.
I don't even... soap operas are funny like that. I only watched one like when I cleaned the cafeteria in college 2 days a week. Somebody was like giving birth for like 2 months. I caught it twice a week, and I could just catch up and follow along with what was going on while I was cleaning the tables.
Yeah, like sports is just like a soap opera. Yeah.
I'll just eat out at least once a week, watch some sports ball games, talk to some dude bros at the bar, and then...
Right. There you go. And tell them to watch Soup and Meatballs.
Yeah, I will.
Spread the word. So the Vikings making news there, and if I have to stay with the NFL... the NFC Central teams are really trying to change the world this year. The Packers have officially tried to make the tush push illegal, and now the Detroit Lions want to revamp the seeding procedure in the playoffs. So I looked this up. There's actually like a legal document written up, and it says, by Detroit, amends Article 20, Section 20.2 of the Constitution, probably the NFL Constitution, not the U.S. Constitution, and bylaws to amend the current playoff seeding format to allow wild card teams to be seeded higher than division champions if the wild card team has a better record. So if you look at the screen, last year's playoff is on the left, current rule. Under the new rule, we would have gotten some new games. Minnesota would have been the 3 seed. They would have hosted the 6 instead of traveling to LA. That was a big thing last year. And I forget what year it was where Seattle was a 7-9 division winner, and they hosted the Saints, and that was the year Marshawn Lynch had that really big power run but the Seahawks won that game. So, Tim, are you a new rule or old rule kind of guy?
I'm an old rule kind of guy because win your division. You know, it's that simple. You don't want to go on the road, win your division.
How do you end up being a wild card?
So if you
like first runner up or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, so in each conference there's 3 divisions, so there's 3 division winners.
4 divisions.
They bring. I'm back in the '90s, Tim. 4 divisions for 7 playoff spots. So they take the 4 division winners and then the next 3 best records. But under the current rule, if you win your division, regardless of your record, you're seeded higher. So you're guaranteed a home game in the first round of the playoffs.
And then the drawback is some divisions are stronger than others. So if you're a winner of a weak division, people would argue that you're not worthy of a higher seed than a team that played in a tougher division.
Okay.
I can see it both ways. I mean, I'm a Bears fan, so I care about the NFL from a distance, I guess. But I like to think that the Bears are going to be in playoff contention in the next couple of years at least. So I'm with you in terms of winning the division when it relates to baseball. Like that, I feel should trump anything else. I don't hate the new rule proposal. I really don't. It's hard for me to say that, you know, Minnesota should have gone on the road with 13 wins or 14, whatever they had. I think they were 14-3. They're the first 14 win team to go on the road in the playoffs. This feels weird.
I think about the Eagles 2 years ago where they fell apart in December and then they had to go to Tampa. They brought it on themselves. You know.
But it's a proposal. It wouldn't be next year because you can't possibly change things within. I don't understand that. Just say, okay, it's done. I don't understand the logistics behind all of it. But
I'm more fired up about the Packers trying to get rid of the tush push. That's just a bunch of crybaby nonsense.
It is.
Tush push.
It's a play that the Philadelphia Eagles do when they're like at the goal line and they only, or if they're close to a first down, like they only need a yard or less. So they line like 9 or 8 guys along the line of scrimmage. They have 1 or 2 guys behind the quarterback. The line tries to get as good of a push forward, and then the 2 players who are behind the quarterback push him forward and try to push him behind the line to pick up the yard or 2.
And they call it a tush push because they touch his tushy.
So.
Yeah, or some people call it the brotherly shove because it's Philadelphia.
Oh, that's cute too.
I like that one better.
Both of those. I would keep them just so that you could hear the sportscaster's name.
You can always tell which ones are more shy about using the word tush.
Aww. I mean, I remember, it's like first, you know, when it's like, you know, you're down to, you know, inches from the goal. Like, I remember, you know, there were plays where you like tossed the littlest runner up over the top. Like, that's the idea. You got that close.
Up and throw.
Like, toss them, tush push.
Well, it used to be that players, if they were trying to block a field goal, were allowed to take a running start and try to hurdle over the line. They outlawed that for player safety.
Well, that's safety. What did the tush push hurt somebody?
It hasn't, but they're worried it will, or that's ostensibly the reason. But
isn't that why we padded all the important areas? You
would think so. It's really, in my mind, it's sour grapes because the Eagles do it with like effectively like 95% of the time they succeed, and the rest of the league doesn't know how to stop it. And so they're saying, "Oh, we should make it illegal."
You make it illegal.
Yeah, exactly.
Or practice it.
That's what I said. Bring in rugby guys. Bring in sumo wrestlers for your tush push defense. You know.
Goodness, I mean, you get somebody little like me there, and I'll just sneak under, crawl through some legs.
So you heard it, NFL teams.
I would love to see Jill try to take a snap and get a first down with a tush push. That would be.
Can you put that on your resume? Tush
I,
push
you
specialist.
know, so I mean, I think, us Gen Xers, like we're the tail end of it. I played the touch football in elementary school. You guys missed it. I was like the star girl who caught the first ball that somebody threw at her. There was
What?
a group of us. We had a little posse.
Were there
Could,
girls that played with us
could,
on the playground, Tim?
what's that?
Were there girls that were? I don't remember girls playing football with us. I know, like the Waldron girls would play basketball with us.
Yeah, I can't think of any girls who play. We had like for baseball and basketball, but I can't think of any who wanted to play football.
Yeah, there was just the girls out in your
This was
neighborhood.
recess, like alternative to dodgeball or not kickball. Like just in the backyard of the school before school would start or at recess.
And
I remember I was so excited though, because I was gonna go out for the Penn State football team then. I always thought I was like taller than I actually was. I forgot, how did we get to talking about? Oh, because of the tush push.
I don't know.
Why don't the other teams just do it? So they made up a play. Is it like trademarked? No one but the Eagles are allowed to do it?
Anyone's allowed to do it.
I
just don't do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that seems silly. A face mask and safety things. Yeah, I think absolutely. Like, let's not wrench people's necks around,
Yeah, and keep in mind, it took them about like 15 years to do anything about concussions. That wasn't a problem. But the tush push, it's 2 years, and they're like, oh, let's get rid of it. Unfair, unsafe.
We didn't know. Yeah. Yeah, that was. But yeah, I'm glad they do that.
All right, Tim, here we go. So now we're at the time with quick hitters. I give Tim about 10 seconds to. Now, he doesn't know what's on this. This isn't on the rundown. And what's interesting is the first one is a story about the New York Giants quarterback situation. The Giants signed Jameis Winston to a 2-year deal worth $8 million. The New York Post confirmed on Friday. So, Tim, do you think this is a good signing for the Giants, for Winston, or for both?
It's good for Winston. I just don't know what he has left in the tank. I mean, I think the reason he became a story in Cleveland was everyone was surprised how effective he was, but he wasn't even consistent. I don't know if this is I don't know that this is the solution the Giants need.
I think it's a 1-year bridge till whoever they draft this year. So number two we put together Jill's alma mater. Penn State wins the 2025 NCAA Division I men's wrestling team title this year. It's their 4th consecutive team title, 13th in program history. I think Cale Sanderson is like the Nick Saban of current college wrestling. Tim, is a former media guy, here's the question. What do you think is the hardest part of actually wrestling and actually covering wrestling?
The hardest part of covering wrestling is interviewing wrestlers because they're very tight-lipped. They don't necessarily love talking about themselves. The hardest part of wrestling, probably making weight.
That's I have wrestlers in class, and I joke with them all the time that I would sit. You remember Mike Poncari? I would sit with him at lunch, and I would eat 7 sandwiches, and he'd be like, "I can't eat today."
Yeah, I remember Dave Schaefer would wear garbage bags under his football stuff during doubles to try to sweat off weight.
Oh, golly, I didn't even think about that. Do kids these days still do stuff like that?
Yep.
Yeah, like the PIAA had to put in like the 90s and 2000s, there were kids who were abusing laxatives. Mm-hmm. And the PIAA had to put in rules about like, don't dehydrate yourself, basically.
Oh, wow.
Number 3, and here we go with high school basketball. Perkiomen Valley knocked off the Lady Cougars in the state quarterfinals. The Vikings then knocked off Archbishop Carroll 52-45 in the Final Four on Friday to earn a berth in the state finals to face Upper St. Clair. On the boys' side, the 6A finals are also set for Saturday. It'll be Roman Catholic, the D12 3 seed, versus the D12 2 seed, Father Judge. We have Father Judge against Roman Catholic. Father Judge, you remember, Tim, is the team that knocked out the Cougar boys team. So both teams that knocked out Hazleton playing for a state title. Tim, if one of your teams loses in the playoffs, do you sort of root for the team that beat you to win it all, thinking that if you couldn't beat them, nobody else could?
Absolutely, because you can always at least make the claim we were the real state runner-up. It's just a point of pride.
Jill, do you remember the toughest team you played against back in the day?
No, I always remember the Berwick rivalries because the joke was that they grew up near the power plant, so they were just bigger and stronger.
That may have been the case. I don't know. I will not say anything about the power plant or whatever and people getting jobs. It's a good thing for them.
Oh yeah, no.
Tim, number 4, last one. I saw this on, I don't know, one of the doom scrolling things I do. Do you know you can buy a full size Plinko set from Costco? You know that? Full size Plinko set.
I want more information.
So the question, Tim, is what is the best Price is Right game? Is it Plinko or is it something else?
Plinko is easily number 1. Number 2 is the Yodeler.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. I
and
like.
Then number
I like
3 is the little putt challenge.
Oh no, the putt challenge was terrible. That was only because Bob Barker would always get it in. I used to like the dice game that you try to roll and it was either higher or lower, or oh my goodness, I had it and it's gone. Brain fog. Was there anything better than watching The Price is Right when you're staying home sick from school though?
No, Price is Right was the best, but I was also growing up in a very strict Catholic house where we weren't allowed to watch Night Court because it was too baughty. I was a fan of watching Love Connection because it felt like I was getting away with something.
And Jill, I knew you were going to be around, so I got a quick hitter for you. Oh. This was going back to one of the very, very first shows Tim and I did. We talked about sports injuries and things that we broke on ourselves. And Tim actually went as far as to say he wanted the viewers to send in stories of their own injuries. So as a viewer / guest now, do you have any injuries you remember from your time in athletics?
Yeah, I knock on wood here that I have not broken anything. But my first major injury was spraining my ankle, learning how to slide.
Oh.
So, like I had mentioned in this show, look at how we make the connections, draw it all together. We were building up the program. I mean, we started with like telephone poles with mismatched fencing for the backstop and no outfield fence to, stealing. I even went back later, there was a bullpen, but learning how to slide when they added the rule for stealing. My dad was our coach at that time, and we did a whole workshop on how to slide. And so he brought a big piece of cardboard from and we're in our sneakers and stuff, and dad showed us. He's like, okay, here you go. And I go in for my first slide, and I didn't get my foot tucked, so my foot stuck on the cardboard, but the rest of my leg kept going. So yeah, I was pretty swollen up for a while there. And those were the recurring injuries that I had. I learned pretty quickly, like when I played volleyball last couple of years in high school, there was the beginning of one season that I had slightly sprained my ankle because I landed on it wrong. But I finally learned as I got older, and I just fall on my butt. Like the minute I feel that tweak in my ankle or whatever, my whole body just goes limp. I'm like, we got cushion other places. But yeah, so that was my biggest sports injury.
There you go. Good time. That is as good an A block as I think, Tim, we've ever had.
I agree. Best show yet.
Best show ever. So now, Jill, what we do is we pick a random thing and we draft based on our category of the week. So Tim, do you want to tell us about our category of the week? You came up with this.
So I wasn't sure if we were drafting best sports days. Is that where we were going? Yeah. Or with NCAA tournament Cinderellas?
Okay, so I drafted the best sports day.
Okay, I picked my top 5 sports days.
Oh no! Well, I'll tell you what. We'll if we have overlap, we'll figure that out.
Okay.
So in order, Jill, to figure out who gets the top pick, I have a deck of cards, and I have to turn the light off here because otherwise it gets too bright.
Glare.
So, Tim, give me a number and a color.
4 black.
1, 2, 3, 4. So today's card is President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points from 1918. It is the Jack of Hearts. So it is, in fact, red. So that means I get the first pick in the draft.
Woodrow Wilson, you've screwed me again.
Bill, you have an important job today. Since I didn't tell you that you had to draft anything or pick anything, I'm not going to put you on the
I
spot.
showed up.
But what I think you should do is rank who did better. The internet usually thinks Tim drafts better. I just need some kind of validation that I matter too, I guess. I don't know.
So
Are you offering to pay my student loans?
If you pay mine,
I see.
no. So I'll tell you what, mine. I have a bunch of them. I kind of sort of ranked them, and I'm going to go against what I ranked right off the top of the bat because I think this is one of the coolest days of the year, personally, because I used to be a part of it, and now I kind of still am now with Derek doing band. I will say the very first Friday night of the high school football season.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, and this is a theme that's going to come up a lot, just because fall's my favorite time of year, and I think when football starts, that just kind of signals the season's change. That's a good one. It didn't make my list, but
cool. So we're safe. I haven't poached one yet. My goal is to not get into your 5, so we don't have to mix it.
Okay. So as you might imagine, since I was the one who brought the topic up, my favorite sports day of the year is that Thursday and Friday. But I'm going to go with the Thursday of NCAA tournament.
Okay.
When you start having basketball at 12 noon until you fall asleep.
Totally figured that was where you're going. I had it number 5 on my list. So
okay. Yeah, that was when I was just doing my top 5.
And what's a bummer for me about it is like not being able to see the games from school. I have work to do with the kids, and I'll have my computer on, so I'll see the scores. But then in between classes, if I check my phone, you'll be like, "Dude, did you see this?" I'm like, "No, I didn't."
Now I'm curious, if you're teaching class and you're following scores, and if you see that a 16 is about to pull an upset on a 1, would you tell the class? Would you halt your lesson and be like, "We have to watch this"?
So it depends. I teach a class called History of Board Game Design. Those kids don't care. Those kids, they care about basketball as much as Jill cares about the Yankees bullpen, I think, which is not much. If it's one of my accounting classes and I have athletes in there, yeah, I put the ESPN Gamecast up on the smart board, I bet.
Yeah, I can't remember if I said it last week, but those were always the cool teachers who had the TV there that they would, for maybe the last 10 minutes of class during tournament Thursday, let you watch some of the early games.
So my number 2 is one that I would broadcast in class if I could, but by the time the game I care about will start, school will be over because it starts at 3:00. I'm a slappy for opening day in Major League Baseball. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter what team you are. The Pittsburgh Pirates have as good a shot at winning the division as the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hope springs it.
And I like instead of watching the ESPN broadcasts, I like watching the regional broadcasts. I like the commercials for regional car dealerships, just seeing the different promotions for buy the new ice cream and a batting helmet for the Cincinnati
local
Reds.
orthodontist.
Yeah, that's there's so much more charm there than in the generic national broadcasts.
Ben's cousin is a Yankee fan this year, simply because. Yeah, I was gonna say, let me pull the text out. She said, "I see why you like the Yankees," and then she sent the picture of the tiramisu in the helmet, and I told her everything tastes better in a mini helmet.
How much is the tiramisu though? In New York, that's going to be
$20.
$20.
Oh, probably. I don't know. Might be 25.
And what are the
You're
odds
getting
of
a
a
helmet
good
though, too, so.
tiramisu?
Same stadium that sells sushi and steak too. So, like, who goes to a ball game for sushi and or steak?
I think
Fair.
it's kind of neat though, because I've been we have the Durham Bulls here that I've gone. I mean, I know it's like minors or whatever, but
Oh, it's
they
totally cool.
like it makes it helpful for a family event. If people have, so yeah, there's going to be different people waiting in line at different stands. I took my niece to a game and she's like, I just want nachos.
See, but I think it's
Nachos on
better at
coolers.
minor league games because
Oh,
like
maybe.
major league games they have to like subsidize the salaries somehow, so all the concessions are overpriced. But like I think like having like all those different like food-based promotions and stuff at minor league games, that's like the charm of minor league. I think the minor league baseball experience is actually better than the major league baseball experience.
Did you remember tailgating at Lackawanna County Stadium with Chisnell?
With a case of A-Treat soda and the old Granada.
He brought this tiny little
Oh,
grill,
gross.
and we tailgated in the parking lot. And one of the security guys came over and was like, "What are you doing?" Because you don't get that at a minor league baseball game. But yeah, we did.
I mean, they allowed you to do it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, we weren't
They were
doing
just
anything.
We didn't have
curious.
alcohol or
Sure, we
anything.
weren't drinking
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah.
No Zima.
That's my number 2. Opening day in Major League Baseball.
Along those lines, my number 2 was the opening of NFL season. Opening of just from. I know we're limiting it to one day, but from that Thursday opener to then just a full Sunday of games and then that Monday night game. That's just such a great way to start the season.
I'll give you that. And again, just like Pittsburgh Pirate fans, Bears fans think they have a shot. And you haven't had football in a while. And again, like I said earlier in the show, we're a football country. And seeing actual football again, it's I feel that way about college football, where, oh, yay, we're back and it'll be fun. I don't have the same connection to pro football. Maybe I will in the next couple of years.
And, it's just exciting to see, like rookies get their start, new free agents, coaches who are in a new situation, just an exciting start to the season.
How do they pick? Because there can only be one opening game when you guys are talking about whatever sport, right?
Right. So in football, it's the defending Super Bowl champion.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
And then they usually pick either like a division. So the Eagles won the
It'll
Super
be a
Bowl.
big game.
They'll probably either play like Washington, who they played in the NFC Championship and is a historical rival, or like maybe Detroit, who's really good. But it'll definitely be the Eagles as defending Super Bowl champ.
Yeah, and how many games total do the
17 currently.
17 out of 18 weeks. Yep.
Because that's something too. They don't play every team every year.
No, so you play each team in your division twice.
Okay.
Then your division gets matched against a division in your conference, and you play each of those 4 teams. So that's 10 games. You get matched against a team from the other conference. So that's another 4 games. And then just one random floating game.
Based on where you finished in the standings, like
yeah. So like if you're first, you have to play a corresponding first place team from last year to theoretically give you a harder schedule than a team that struggled the year before, who would play another team that finished last the year before. To hopefully let the teams that are struggling catch up.
I should maybe I'll make myself a little cheat sheet of like basic sports, like how many teams there are, how many games they play, because it changes. Like I used to be able to rattle off stats when I had more room in my meat computer.
Well, and it used to be 16. They keep adding, and like we were just talking about, they want to change the playoff format. They just changed it like 5 years ago. So they keep changing things, adding things.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious because as you guys are talking this, I'm like, I don't know that I would have a thing like that, but like when they have Star Wars Day,
yes,
stuff at the stadium, I'm like, those are fun. There's fireworks afterwards.
There you go. Cool. My number 3. I'll stay at football, so we can keep talking football. Not opening week. I think the best week of NFL football is the Saturday of the divisional round games, because you always get you hope you get the cold game. You get like the minus 20-degree game in New England. You get the 30-mile-an-hour winds in Chicago or something like that.
The Eagles playing the Rams in the snow this year,
and it's usually good teams match up with each other. You're not dealing with the Colts against the Panthers. So I'm divisional round playoffs.
Yeah, and I didn't know if you were going to go wild card or divisional round. I think either one's a great pick, but yeah, divisional round you get card. I think
you bring in that number.
Yeah, you get better matchups.
Bring that number 1 seed then. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a day that isn't devoted to just one sport, but it's a day that's just chock full of sports. I love Christmas Day because you get both pro football, you get some college football bowl games, and then it's a day that's devoted to like 5 NBA games.
Big day in the NBA. Yeah, that's actually one I marked down. Tim's probably going to pick this.
Yeah.
Because of the NBA. I think this year the NFL kind of like pushed its way in. Depending on what, like if there's ever a Tuesday Christmas, I don't think they're gonna. I think that becomes kind of hard, unless you schedule it like they had a Saturday game, but that's still two games. That's tough to do. A Tuesday game in the NFL. They squeezed in a Wednesday. I think this was Christmas Wednesday this year. I think or last year.
Was it a Thursday?
I can check a calendar. Like Christmas was in December, right?
This year it was, yeah.
Wednesday. Good memory. Look at you.
Last year was a Wednesday.
Show off.
Yeah, right?
If it's a Tuesday, I don't think the NFL can do it.
No, it's too tough.
They square pegged into a round hole. They forced Kansas City in there. So, no, but Christmas Day is a cool day for basketball and college football, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, just with the college football, playoff, or if you're getting some of like the non-playoff off-brand bowl games, you just get a lot of. Or if you're a hockey fan, there's a lot of hockey going on.
Yeah, That's not my world.
As we all know, you're Max Lil Hockey Gemelli.
Yeah, Alex Ovechkin's he needs 7 more goals to break the record. He's got 12 games to do it. I don't know if he's going to do it in the regular season.
Look at you, always dropping hockey facts.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the quick hitters. But I said, I got to find something else. So we went with Perkiomen Valley.
Of course.
My number 4, we talked about this kind of earlier. We in a roundabout way. I'm going to pick Championship Sunday in Williamsport, the title game of the Little League World Series, because you have or whatever day that like the major leaguers play in Williamsport, they have a Little League World Series day at the same time. I think that's really neat for the kids. And one of these years, Tim, I'm getting up there. And the Yankees were there last year, so last year was the time. But one of these years we'll make it up.
Yeah, that is a good one. And I mean, it's this August, if you find the time. I live 45 minutes away.
That I think is a cool day.
Yeah, and it's cool to see the little leaguers get to like hang out with the major leaguers. Yeah. I don't know, it's one of those corny sports things that's warms my cold heart. My number 4, I'm sticking with the holiday theme. I'm going with Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I love Thanksgiving football. You just get, the house smells like turkey during that like early Lions game. Then like in my family, it was always, eat Thanksgiving during halftime of that Cowboys game. And now we get that primetime game when you're like still like digesting your pie. Yeah, that's a good day.
I think with Thanksgiving, it's usually the same weekend as Michigan, Ohio State. And again, not caring much. The NFL is kind of just there. Like, okay, I'll watch this because it's football, but it's a Thursday. I've got to wait 2 days for the real game.
Yeah, but I think it helps for me that Thanksgiving has always been my favorite holiday. Like getting up, watching the parade as a kid, like playing like football in the yard, and then just watching games, and then before there was primetime football on Thursdays, watching the Survivor Series, getting a little pro wrestling going.
Yes, back in the day. So Thanksgiving is, and I think it's great value at 4. With my 5, this is going to be weird, but I think we talked about this on a earlier show. This is something that I actually got my wife into. We actually set the alarm to watch this. July 4th, I think is cool simply because of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Oh yeah,
and it's as grotesque a spectacle as it is. George Shea's introductions are awesome, and this year was the first year for the last 20 without Joey Chestnut, and he was missed. And my daughter, who is 7, she's she was asking, "Where's Joey Chestnut?" because she thought he was funny to watch, cram all the food down. It's a neat time, and with the thousands of people at Coney Island, in the heat, that's kind of neat to me.
You're right. The contestant or participant introductions are great. I think I might have asked you this before. Have we settled on how many hot dogs you could eat in 12 minutes?
Well, I haven't tried. So, and again, it depends on how I'm doing it. Am I doing it the gross way, dipping it in the water and just cramming it down? In 10 minutes.
Let's go with both ways, with water or just eating them like a normal human being.
I could easily do 1 a minute. I got to be able to get 10. I think I could do between 12 and 15.
Okay, I think before I had my
acid reflux,
before reflux, I could probably do 15 to 20. I would even give myself 20 in 12 minutes.
Here's the thing: it's whether the competitive spirit would kick in, oh, what, you're doing 20? All right, now let's go.
The heart of a champion.
I think we could.
Seeing a future show.
It would be our last show because we would both instantly die.
You have your Alka-Seltzer chasers.
I would just be dipping. Yeah, I would be dipping
hot
dogs in
Tums on standby.
Well, here I can give you a nice tip for dealing with acid reflux.
Oh yes, please.
So I discovered this. It was actually a friend from Colombia that told me very specifically to use guava juice and unflavored gelatin. But you can just grab a box of whatever your favorite flavor is, Jello, generic. It's really just the gelatin itself, I think, that is active that helps. So, you have that burning or aching or whatever from acid reflux, and you mix up the Jello just like you were going to make it for, shooters, jiggler, But so hot water, gelatin, stir it for 2 minutes, add your cold water. It is the perfect temperature to drink warm. It coats the whole esophagus down. And my theory is that then your stomach acid has something to work on with the protein.
There you go.
And it's I get it once in a while. Like last night, I thought chili cheese fries was a good idea at 9 p.m. I stopped myself before it made it worse. But, I wanted something to go with the milkshake, but yeah, so I do that. And a regular coffee mug, if you do approximately half the box of Jello, about half a cup of boiling water, stir it for 2 minutes, say your prayers, tell the acid reflux where to go, and then cool water in with it and just sip it, chug it down or whatever. But, usually within 20 minutes, I'm feeling better. If I ignored it for too long and it got really bad, then I have to do the second half of the box.
I would just like to point out this is where we are in life, where we're sharing tips to handle our reflux.
My first thought is
changed a lot from when we were. It's not just old age.
We were in college or high school when I would be eating I liked hot Italian sausage. I liked hot peppers. The merciless peppers of Quasalantongo or whatever that's from. I don't want to eat candle wax, or do I? Homer went on that weird pepper trip, and
oh my god, that was one of the best. Everybody was wasted.
So I mean, that's I can just eat gelatin now, is what you're saying. I like that.
Yeah,
See, you learn something here on Soup and Meatballs every week.
yeah,
We
I'm
bring in
gonna
subject matter experts, and
I'm gonna try this week, and I'm gonna report back on next week's show.
yeah. Let me
yes,
know how, because I've done it for years now. I wish I had known in college because that was the first. I remember going to the ER the first time I had heartburn. I was so upset.
Yeah. Well, for some people, they think they're having a heart attack because it can cause like pressure, like
Oh
chest
yeah.
you never had
pressure.
it before. Yeah, sure.
Oh, it would take me a day or two to recover because like I think just my muscles contracting, like my back and like chest would ache for
Yeah.
a day or two afterwards. Like it was a workout for me. Thankfully, most yeah, try to eat like a responsible adult.
So no merciless peppers of
Oh no,
quetzalcoatl or
that I mean, as long as you don't actually have like ulcers or something that can irritate. No, I eat spicy things, but not just for the sake of it being spicy. And actually one of my snacks is like the what is it, kimoy, dusted like dried mangoes. So it's like spicy and sweet.
you go.
How many hot dogs do you think you could eat in 12 minutes?
Maybe one. I'm a really slow eater and I talk a lot. So if you were there, like maybe half a hot dog. Also, it depends what I put on it, how messy it is. Like, there's a whole process to eating hot dogs.
That's the right way to eat a hot dog. So
Yeah, that's how
Yeah. Like
humans
over the
should consume hot.
campfire. Yeah,
this
like
July 4th, watch the lunatics on ESPN. It'll be like at noon or 1 o'clock. You'll get physically ill.
oh, I'm excited you brought up a sport like a sport like that, like not just the traditional, like that's pretty neat.
Then
So
round us out. What do you got for number 5?
my number five was kind of along your thinking with football, but I love the first day of the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Okay,
Like after the wild card rounds, like when we get to the division series.
gotcha. I
Um,
think because it's a series, um, it's no. I'm with you though.
and I,
Game one is always a big game.
right, and I also think it's because we didn't grow up with like a wild card game. Like, I mean, we grew up with a championship series and then a World Series and then a division series and the championship series. I don't even really consider the wild card round the playoffs.
They're like
You
the
know,
play in.
it's like the first four for the NCAA tournament. Like I'll watch, but I'm not that invested unless it's the Sox. But yeah, that first day of division series for Major League Baseball playoffs, I am all in.
I'm with you. Um, as the other baseball thing I had on like my honorable mentions, I guess I still like the All Star game.
Me too.
The fact that the American League and National League play interleague has taken some of the juice out of it, but the Midsummer Night Classic it's still fun seeing the guys on different teams be on the same team. I like that kind of stuff. Plus, it's the middle of the summer, so that's usually good. And the other one I picked, well, it's not like it anymore. They don't make it like they used to. It was the Saturday of the NFL draft because I
Okay.
would go over to my buddy Zach's house, and I would be there from 9 in the morning till 10 at night, just watching the Berman and Theismann and Mel Kipers of the world talking about the new guys coming into the league. The draft day used to be cool. Now they turned into like this. We're gonna watch the first round on Thursday and the second round on Friday. They've stretched it. They've commercialized it. It's not
I'll,
nearly as cool.
I'll throw this one out there. It's not so much a sporting event as it's related to sports. Opening ceremonies of the Summer Olympics. I love the opening ceremonies, especially this year in France. I thought they were really cool. Like having all the athletes come down the Seine.
The Olympics no spectacle. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they do it well.
I
Cool.
I was very nostalgic this Olympics. Growing up, I used to watch a lot more of it. There's a ton more sports now. I mean, again, going back to softball, like that wasn't even an Olympic sport when I was growing up. Like I
Right.
always thought, like, oh, I can play softball in high school, I can play in college, and then that's it. Like you're just done. There is no other level. There was no professional women's sports anywhere, and like not even the, penultimate Olympics for all the sports. But this year I watched a lot of the swimming, and like read a lot of the articles and stuff, but I kept just thinking about it and not watching it as much. And then I was like, oh, I need to go watch. I'm like, oh, they're over. It
Yeah,
was such a strange summer for me, I guess, to try. But I thought it was really exciting. Like I felt that connection, like when I was younger, that I was just so excited it was an Olympic year.
I got really into the basketball,
Okay.
just like with what Steph Curry was doing. It was just, but also I do love the swimming, and my dad was a track runner in high school and college, and so I would go to a lot of track events with my dad as a kid. So I really get into like when they shift to the track stuff.
I help out our track team. I put the stick in the ground for like the shot put and discus. Like seeing people who actually launch those is like that's interesting to me. But I like the events that don't get a lot of airtime, like the what do they call it? The steeplechase or the steeple run, like you're running, you're jumping, you're falling in water.
Yeah,
Like that kind of stuff is interesting to me because you don't see it all the time. You can see basketball every day if you want. You can see boxing if you want. You can see, some of those sports. But like archery, I don't see archery anywhere. It's
There was
neat to
some
see.
neat like triathlons with shooting in the
yeah.
middle.
The one lady
What?
looked like a steampunk assassin. Like she had like all this stuff on her face,
Yeah, and then
like he came
the
out of the
guy who looked like he
Matrix.
just left the office and he had like
Yeah, he had no equipment. He was
like
just
a
like,
glove.
yeah, and he looked like he was really put out by it. He's like, "All right, I'm here." Like he had this
Yeah.
look on his face, like, "All right, I guess I'll shoot this thing now."
I forget what show it was. We talked about him. I remember
Yeah,
that.
Well, and I think he had a female partner or something. I remember reading some of that stuff because obviously I'm looking at a lot more like feminist perspectives of things. I have some very intelligent, like responsible and well-informed friends that I've kept in at least on Facebook over the years. But yeah, there was some neat stuff. I really got into the Olympics. Maybe that was part of it too, that I saw new cool things.
I can assure you, you won't find any intelligence or well-informed people on this show.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
I'm impressed so far. I love it.
now you're drafting. I'm top fiving ish.
Yes.
So, in honor of the first round of the NCAA tournament, we were going to look at the biggest upsets. And I guess you could theoretically draft these, but if you pick one of the ones I pick, I'm still counting mine.
Okay.
I'm not re-looking them up. So I got the first pick in the draft. So if you want to lead us off here, if you want to go 5-1 or 1-5, it's your call.
Yeah, I'm going to start off. Yeah, whether we call it 5 or 1, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to take just from where I am geographically, Bucknell beating Kansas in 2005. Bucknell being a 14 seed that year. And I remember I was in bed. It was like after midnight, and I couldn't believe that the little college from down the road was hanging with Kansas, let alone when they actually beat them. So more just for the memory of it than, because nationally, I think people forget that Bucknell team. But yeah, Bucknell, special
Every
place
year,
in my heart.
every year, I think people don't think too much about Bucknell. Looking at the box score of that, I think what we're going to find with a lot of these is these games were close at halftime, and the higher seeds probably got a little nervous. That was a 14 over a 3. My first one, my number 5 is a 15 over a 2. And what's kind of funny is the 2, they spent a lot of time losing in the first round. 1993, I'm taking Santa Clara over Arizona. Arizona had 7 future NBA players on this team, but Santa Clara comes in and pulls off the upset. What I remember about those Arizona years is the year before Arizona lost to a 14 seed. A couple years later, they lost to a 12 seed. Like they were always getting knocked out in the first round.
Yep.
Until it was 90. They won the whole thing in 97.
Yeah, and they had to beat 3 number 1s to do it.
So to have that kind of situation, I'm taking I don't even know who Santa Clara's nickname was. That's how obscure that team was at the time.
Well, I'll tell you, someone from that Santa Clara team who was not obscure is future 2-time MVP Steve Nash.
Oh, there you go.
Hit some big foul shots down the stretch for that Santa Clara team to beat Arizona. I'm gonna go for my number 4. I'm gonna go back to 2008 and take that Davidson team that made a run to the Elite Eight and introduced the world to a young man named Steph Curry.
Who did they have in the first round?
I can't remember who they had in the first round, but I believe their run ended thanks to Duke. I want to say it was Duke who beat them in the Elite Eight. Maybe Louisville. But boy, Steph was just on fire that entire tournament. Dropped 41 in the round of 16, if I remember right.
Davidson was a 10 that year.
Yeah.
They knocked off Gonzaga. Then the 2 seed Georgetown, that would have been their big upset. Then they knocked off Wisconsin to get to the regional finals, where they lost a tough 2-point game to the top seed Kansas.
And Kansas might have been the defending champ that year. I'm trying to remember. That might have been the year after the Mario Chalmers team.
If you say it with enough conviction, then yes.
It was the year after the Mario Chalmers team.
It was a Kansas team that was probably really good. So,
yeah.
My number 4, I'm gonna pick a 15 over a 2. In 2012, Duke has 8 future NBA players on their roster and a 2-point lead at halftime. But C.J. McCollum with Lehigh earns himself a lot of
league.
And I'm telling you, Lehigh, where my dad got his master's. So Lehigh beating Duke by 5 in 2012. I'm sure a lot of people they had their brackets busted with that one.
And also, just because Duke is kind of like what the Yankees are to baseball, or what the Chiefs now are in the NFL, I'm sure people around the country especially love not just an upset, but seeing Duke get upset.
And what gets me is just trying to revisit the numbers on it. You know, Lehigh didn't shoot all that well. They only shot 33% from 3, 47% from the floor. Duke shot 56% from the floor and out-rebounded Lehigh 37-34.
Wow.
So, yeah, there was no – I mean, Lehigh went on an 8-0 run to open up the second half, and at some point, Duke was able to close the gap, and they got the lead for 12 seconds before McCollum comes down and hits a big shot, and then Lehigh just kept the lead the rest of the way.
And, you make the point about these games being close at the half and giving the favorite something to think about. And, Bobby Knight had always said the most important moment in any game is the first 3 minutes after halftime. So for to come out of the locker room and go on a run against Duke and say, no, we're not done, like this is a fight, like that's just crushing.
Yep.
I'm gonna go next. Boy, I've got a lot of good ones on my list, but
I had to do a lot of research on this. There were a lot to pick from.
I'm going to go, just because who didn't love Sister Jean? I'm going with Loyola in 2018.
And they went on a run too, didn't they?
Yeah, they went to the Final Four. They lost to Michigan in the Final Four.
Loyola, where did they come out of? They were in the South. They were in the South region with Virginia as the top seed. Loyola was the 11.
Yeah.
They knocked off Miami of Florida, Tennessee. Nevada had knocked off the 2-seeded Cincinnati team, so they avoided the 2. And then that was the year that another big upset, that was the Maryland UMBC, whatever that stands for. They knocked off Virginia, so they didn't have to face the top seed. You had a 9 versus an 11 in the regional final.
Yep.
That in and of itself was an upset. To see that,
just such a fun tournament too.
Yeah, that's a good solid pick. A lot of mine were, they're older, so I'm going to go back to I remember watching this game. It was, I want to say it was 96. I didn't write it down. It was Pete Carroll's final win at Princeton when the Princeton Tigers upset the UCLA Bruins. The final score was 43-41. It was like a high school game, but like neither team could buy a bucket. UCLA had 5 guys averaging double digits. That was Jim Herrick's final game at UCLA too. I wrote down the fact that Pete Carroll or Carrill, however you say his name, he looked like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
he looked like he was just in a battle, and it was Princeton. You don't expect Princeton to win. UCLA had just won the national title the year before, the defending champs.
And Princeton ran an offense straight out of 1950, just that motion backdoor cut offense.
Yeah. If there was no shot clock, that final score would have been like 18-12.
And that would have been around the era where Chris Long was at Princeton. I don't know if he was on the team. He was recruited to Princeton. I don't know if he was still on the team.
He played for Princeton, but I think he graduated in '92. I don't know if he was on that team, honestly.
Yeah, that would have been the era where he would have at least, been still like college age.
Something for the producer to check here. If he was on the team, he didn't play.
Okay.
Yeah, the Chris they had was Chris Doyle, and he scored 3 points. Sidney Johnson was the big guy, scored 11. Gabe Lewis had 10, and Brian Earl had 3 off the bench. Yeah, Princeton only played 7 players, so he might have been on the roster, but he didn't play.
I love that the leading scorer, you only play 7 players, and your leading scorer has 11 points.
In a 43-41 game, that'll happen.
That's like a junior high game. So my number 2, I'm gonna go with a pretty popular pick. I'm gonna go with Villanova in '85. Just because Georgetown was the monster program, with Ewing and John Thompson had just built them up, and Villanova had. Everyone thought, no business being even in the Final Four, let alone the final. And, they did it. Villanova somehow, they shot whatever, like 75% from the field, and they beat Georgetown.
Against that Hoya team when, you weren't shooting from 40 feet away. So that the interior defense with Ewing and I hadn't considered upsets like in later rounds or runs. But I think that was the lowest seed to ever win a tournament. So,
yeah, they were an 8, if I remember right.
Yeah, they were an 8. That's a solid upset there. And my last 2, again, very very first round centric. Another 15 over a 2, and I think I picked this one because of who the 2 was. Michigan State losing to Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
So, you have a Tom Izzo team that's 29-6. They were top 25 in the country in scoring and in scoring defense. And Middle Tennessee wins 90-81. Just a real shock job it was 2016. I don't think this was back when Michigan State was they were Izzo Final Four. Yeah. Write it in.
And to score 90 on Michigan State is really
in a tournament game. Yeah. So, and Michigan State, I wrote it down. They had 4 future NBA players on that team.
Now I'm gonna defer to you because I want to hear your number 1.
Oh, I took the Fairleigh Dickinson team over Purdue. I left UMBC over Virginia off because midway through the fourth quarter or midway through the second half, that really wasn't in question.
Right.
The Fairleigh Dickinson ups the 16-1 over upset of Purdue. That was a close game throughout. So that game was in play for either team, with 2 minutes, with 1:30, with a minute left, And I remember I was watching that over at one of Jen's friends' houses, like they do their St. Patrick's party. I remember watching it with the guys there and thinking to myself, wow, Purdue can't buy a bucket late. And yeah, That was a bigger 16-1 upset to me, I think. I don't think the Virginia team was all that strong, especially offensively. They ran a very kind of sad offense back in that year. So I'm going Purdue. Who's your one?
I'm going to go, and it's a clip that, it's almost 40 years old. No, it is 40 years old. But Jim Valvano running around the court looking for someone to hug because NC State was somehow able to beat Houston on an alley-oop to Lorenzo Charles in '83. What's that?
Yeah. Like I said, my upsets were very, very first round heavy. Villanova and NC State are those are great picks.
I mean, I considered like that Florida Gulf Coast team. If you remember the Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast team, like 10 years ago. Okay. They had a nice Cinderella run. Valparaiso in the late '90s.
Yeah, Valpo had the buzzer beater.
Yeah, the Bryce Drew.
That really cool play that was drawn up.
Yeah, that little like a hook and ladder at half court.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it. Yeah, that's good list, man.
Also, we got Jill back.
Yeah, there she is.
See. Oh, wait. Oh, I came off mute. Okay. I couldn't tell how to do it. I think I figured out how to do it full screen. Yeah, I needed intermission.
We're like it's borderline like a Zoom meeting here.
I know. Yeah, but it's a new platform. I have to, figure out all the things to click on. Anyway, yeah, and then I came out to the garage to smoke because the sun is hitting my comfy spot outside.
It is 41 here. It is mostly sunny. It's probably a lot nicer there.
Yeah, I think I saw the high today is supposed to be 68. So.
Bless your heart.
So, Tim, we're coming up on noon, and this is the one show where I actually have a time limit. I have about 15 minutes left. So, Tim, I'm actually going to defer Mr. Smarty Pants. We're going to do Ms. Smarty Pants.
All right.
See, she didn't know it, but so now, Jill, there's trivia for you.
Oh, goody. Is it multiple choice?
No.
Oh.
No, and it's
right.
but it's something that you should have some kind of experience with as a Penn State fan and a Penn State alum.
Okay.
So, Ms. Smarty Pants, can you tell us what were Penn State's original colors?
Oh. Is that like the pink and black or something?
Yes! Look at that.
Okay. So, I don't even know where that came from, but that was the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, I remember it being like something odd.
Pink and black. It was adopted in 1887 before they transitioned to navy and white in 1890. There, look at that. See,
I've never heard that.
And see, Tim, that's you learn something new on Super Meatballs.
I pull out weird memory archives of random facts. Wow, thanks. You're like building me up here.
We talked about the tush push. That was a tush pull.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That was good.
All right. So, rank roulette.
I was hoping okay. So if I hadn't known that one, that was it, huh? Okay.
And like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have known. So, that's why you get paid the big bucks. So, Tim, rank roulette time. Okay. We'll give you A, B, C, D, E, and we'll see if you can figure out the connection between what we're doing here. So, what we do is we rank things blindly. He doesn't know what's coming up next. It could be pancakes. It could be contact lenses. Who knows?
Oh.
All right.
Was this new for you too?
No. I was just trying to find a link between contact lenses and pancakes.
Oh, there is none.
I'll take D.
D is Tyler Hansbrough.
Okay. I'll go the standard. I'll put him at 3.
Put him at 3. All right.
I'll go A.
A is Christian Leitner.
I'll put him at 2.
Leitner's at 2. All right. You got B, C, or E?
I'll go E.
E is the big O, Oscar Robertson.
Well, he's better than Leitner. I'll put him at 1.
Oh, Big O's going 1. All right, so you got B and C.
I'll go B.
B is Elvin Hayes,
I'll put him at 4.
which means your number 5 is letter C, and letter C is Danny Manning.
Okay.
So your list, Oscar Robertson, Christian Leitner, Tyler Hansbrough, Elvin Hayes, and Danny Manning. Do you know what this list has in common?
All NCAA champions.
But more specific. Or a different...
NCAA basketball champions.
Something different as it relates to the NCAA tournament.
Okay. What'd you say? Manning, Leitner, Hansbrough, Elvin Hayes, Oscar Robertson.
Your 1 through 5 is Oscar Robertson, Christian Leitner, Tyler Hansbrough, Elvin Hayes, and Danny Manning.
College Basketball Hall of Famers?
Maybe, I don't know. These are the all-time leading scorers in NCAA history. And my order, A, B, C, D, E, was how they finished. So Oscar Robertson, your number 1, is actually my number 5. Christian Leitner is the all-time leading scorer. He was your number 2. So
I stand by my list, though. Even though it was a blind ranking, any list that has Oscar Robertson at the top can't be a bad list.
there you go. Okay, so Jill, are you ready for your rank roulette?
Oh, okay.
Same kind of concept. You have to blind rank things without knowing what's coming up next. So you just tell me letter A, B, C, D, or E, and I'll tell you what it is. And you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll go. Oh, it'll be easier for me if I just A.
A, okay. A is chocolate cupcakes.
Ooh. All right. Yeah, they're going at number 1. What's B?
Number 1. Look at that. You're going B. B is Snaps Pizza.
Oh. All right. We'll put that at number 3.
3, okay.
Okay. What's C?
C is Penn State football.
Okay. I'll put that at number 4. All right.
So you have
right.
D, you have D
D.
and E.
All right. D.
D is Yingling beer.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2.
Number 2.
All right. And what's E?
Which naturally makes E your final pick, and E was July 20th.
Okay. So yeah, that's number 5.
That's your list. So these
What
are
are they
just
all?
you don't know what these are in common?
Well, they're all Pennsylvania related. Well, I guess chocolate cupcakes, but I thought tasty cakes once I heard Snaps Pizza.
Yeah, and
I-
Yingling.
I just
And
figured
Yingling, yeah.
I just picked 5 random things that I thought you liked.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I did then rank them based on how I'd like. Although my birthday is definitely pretty important ranking there. But I guess given the other things, the birthday only comes once a year. But the Yingling I can get down here, so that's what I got in my fridge.
Snaps Pizza you can't get all the time, and
Yeah. Yeah, the Snaps Pizza's a little tough, and they don't make it like they used to, but I do get it.
oh, it's different. I actually think I like Carmen's Pizza. I think I like that more now.
Carmen's is better. Yeah, like my dad used to bring down like snacks because the one that missed the list is the Middlesworth potato chips.
Ooh.
That
Barbecue?
yeah, the barbecue. I actually in college went to the plant where they make them for one of my projects.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Well, food science is kind of a fun, degree to have like that. But we had a project where we had to map out like the making of something, and so I wrote to the owner, and he gave me a tour of the plant, and I wrote a whole made a whole flow chart and drawings for how you make potato chips.
That's awesome.
I know, yeah. That seasoning is exclusive to Middlesworth, or it was, 20 some odd years ago. Proprietary
I
blend
believe it's
there.
called trade secret.
Trade secret, yeah.
Trade secret.
Oh,
Well,
cool, thanks.
I'll
So
tell you
my
what.
list couldn't be wrong. I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's random. However you see it, It's just one of the goofy things we do
I like
here on
it.
Super Meatballs to keep people on their toes and just something to talk about. So this is something Tim and I've been doing now. This is show 28.
Nice. That's so cool. This is
We're
so
gonna do
cool.
our
You guys
rundown.
do this.
So, Jill, thanks for coming. You're welcome to come on and talk sports ball whenever. It's somebody out there wants to be on. Just reach out like Jill and say, hey, I know more about sports than you and Tim, and you're probably right. I'm still waiting for Capper to tell us about the Mets, or Eric Perina to tell us about the Mets. We're still waiting for that. So it's nice to actually have some follow through.
What's Rigotti doing these days? He can be a guest.
So I just texted him yesterday because my brother-in-law asked me. He said there was a coal cracker word called pank, Pank. Like, I've never heard of that. And he said, no, one of his clients was from, he claimed it was coal country. So I texted Dan. I'm like, dude, your grandfather said some weird stuff back in the day. He was as coal country as they got. Did you ever hear him say the word pank? And he wrote back, he's like, no, I've never heard that before in my life. I said, neither have I. So
What is it?
we can get him on and talk about pank. I don't know. I didn't look it up. I was afraid it was dirty or something. It's going to get a virus on my computer.
Oh, that kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Well, there is weird regional, like colloquial phrases for things. Like, Mom moved like 45 minutes away from Hazleton when I was in college, and people were talking, like different pocket of Italians, and they made soupies and limoncello. And I'm like, oh, what are soupies? I'm in school for food science, and they're like, oh, it's just our thing. It's sopressata.
Yeah,
But they called it soupies. They didn't even know it was sopressata until somebody gave me some. I told them what they were eating.
That's what they call them, like around like Mount Carmel.
Yep. That's where. Yeah, she was up in Coalmont.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was cool that I wasn't allowed to help make them because women will spoil the batch.
Why would you want a food science major around your food?
All right, it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on the Super Meatballs program. Thanks to Jill and Tim and me, and let us know if where'd we go wrong, and have a good week. We'll see. This is the part we struggle with, ending the show. I just hit the end button.
You need like a fun catchphrase or something.
Yeah, we don't have one.
We'll work on it.
We're only 28 episodes in. Give us time.
I feel like it should say tush push.